The season finale of Stranger Things, the season 5 as a whole, was interesting to say the least. I gotta be honest. I gotta be honest with you. I was hoping for more. Straight up, I'll tell you that. But at the same time, I'm glad that it's over. And even my wife asked me, because we watched this, my wife and I, we watched it on the 31st. We watched it that night. And, in anticipation for the end of the year. And my wife asked me, what do you think about it? And I said, well, it is an ending. And definitely it was an ending. But it took me a couple of days to analyze it. And of course, now I'm sitting down to share how I feel about it, because I will tell you, I love Stranger Things. I still think about season 1, which I watched with my wife. My wife was the one who told me about the show. She was already watching it, a few episodes into it, and she told me, watch, this is pretty good. So I started watching it with her. She got me hooked. And I fell in love with that. That season 1 was amazing, in my opinion. Everything that you can think of, everything from the 80s. If you grew up in the 80s as a child, you remember all this stuff that was used for reference. Of course, the horror from movies from the 80s, the Ghostbusters, the Kids, the Goonies, all that kind of thing that was the inspiration from the series. I was blown away, and I kept at it, throughout the season, season 2, season 3, season 4, and now season 5. And of course, it's been a decade. It's been 10 years, and we have seen these kids mature. Yet they're no longer little children. They're now adults. They're young adults. And at some point, you got to say, you know what? How much can we watch of this? How much can we take out of this story and strip anything from these kids? And trying to have them to portray little children with already adults, and they need to move on with their lives. But in a way, I'm glad that it's over. But it doesn't mean that everything was perfection, at least in the end. And yes, there's been a lot of drama, and of course, it's all going to be that. Anything that is out there is always going to create some type of turmoil. People always look at things from the wrong perspective, of course. There was a lot of, particularly in this season, messaging. It had to do with LGBT stuff. Which I'm not against it. I'm in favor, but also I'm not against it. It's part of the character development. These kids have grown, have matured, and they're dealing with other issues now that they're older. And in a way, they tap into some of the messaging here. The Duffer Brothers took a lot of liberty to express their own ideas and ideologies through the series. And that is something that has been since the first season. It's nothing new. And it didn't bother me as much. I just felt that personally, what really affected me throughout the show is that the show, as it became more popular, when you look back and look at season 1, it was a very tight, cohesive story. It was the story of this little girl, Millie Bobby Brown, as Elle, that nobody knows who she is, and trying to unravel her story, who she is, and these kids around her, protecting her, becoming her shield, her friends. And the adults, David Harbour, Winona Ryder, all of them dealing with that drama. It was a very small circle. But as the show grew, there were more characters added through each season 2, season 3. And each character brought something, and there was more development and more stories. And it became, I wouldn't call it convoluted, but heavier with the narrative, heavier with the dialogue, because there's more stuff, more characters dealing with their own personal stress and pain and sufferings and youth and all of the things that you can think of. So I felt that it started little by little, not losing steam, but becoming more and more convoluted in a way. And by season 4, I felt that there were too many characters, and the main character, which in this case was Elle, was relegated to more of a side character, which in my opinion was not the best way to do it. And season 5 has a lot of the same from season 4, because you can see all these characters coming to this crescendo, coming to the end of the series, and in the end, that's it. But at the end, of course, I would say that Elle gets at least some sort of ending, one that perhaps not everyone understands or wants, because I have to analyze it. What is real, what is not? And I'm not going to give you spoilers here. If you already watch it, you understand what I'm saying. If you haven't, I invite you to watch it and think for yourself, really analyze it for yourself. Be open-minded by it. But there's the open door for things that can happen in the future. So we already have spin-offs with games and novels and all that kind of thing. So, the room is there for sure. But at least this is the ending that the show needed. And I'm okay with that. I felt as it started from the beginning more of a horror mystery, it developed into a sci-fi adventure. And you can see the inspiration, particularly on the last two seasons, that was taken from Dungeons and Dragons. And ultimately, in the end, you see all these kids together fighting as in Dungeons and Dragons, fighting the final monster and Vecna. And to me, that is technically the triumph of the show. How we were able to navigate throughout the years the lives of these kids, how they were little, and how they become adults in the process, and they mature, and they fight those battles together. That, to me, is the victory of the show in itself. Would I consider this season better than the first season? No, I don't. I still think the best season so far is season number 1. And then I would say this is up there with season 3 and season 5 are there. I think the lowest points for me, at least, was season 2 and season 4, I would say. But other than that, I felt that it came to the ending that it needed to have. And yes, you can be disappointed because everyone expects happy endings on all the time, but life is not like that. And one of the biggest messages that I finally concluded with this show, it's really the message about embracing your inner child. I think that is the most important part of the show. And the Duffer Brothers are really nailing that well, about embracing as life goes on, as we mature, as life, becomes more risky, and we have to be more bold in the decisions that we make and the friendships that we break. And as we move on with our lives into the next chapter, how can we embrace the inner child and leave room for the next generation to also embrace it? I feel that was the biggest point, and it nailed it on the last episode of the season. And if you come to the ending, when these kids are, they all gather together playing the last session of Dungeons and Dragons before they go upstairs to eat dinner. And it nailed it. It nailed it perfectly. And it leaves the door open towards your imagination. And some people can even say, well, was all in their imagination? Everything that we saw for the last 10 years was all a dream? It was all part of the game? Or was the reality? And ultimately, you have to make that choice. And yeah, at this point, I'm really giving you a spoiler. You have to make the choice of what is real and what is not. But I would say that the Duffer Brothers did a fantastic job. The cast was fantastic. I'm glad that it's over. Whether there's other spin-offs, I don't think they will match the power and the energy that this show, which is considered at this point one of the best TV shows of all time. And yeah, it took forever because this is Necklace we're talking about, but at least it comes to an end. And as many other shows haven't been able to do that, at least we can have an ending on this one. And that is great. That is a victory for us as viewers. Now, if I would have to give this season a score, in my book, it is an 8.5. It is an 8.5. The first season for me was a 9. The second season was an 8. The third season was an 8.5. The season 4 was an 8. This is an 8.5. So ultimately, my whole score for the TV show is an 8.5, which I think the whole show is an 8.5 for sure. It could be better. It was, carried for season 1, carried the whole thing for sure. But ultimately, it was never really a dull moment. And yes, there were things that I could have seen more. I would have loved to see more of the development of Elle, because in the end, the last 2 seasons, I feel that she was relegated. And the other characters, the other kids, they took center stage throughout the story. But ultimately, it's a story of victory through pain and suffering and friendship and eternal childhood. And I think that is what really makes us love the show very, very much. Yes, people will analyze, people will politicize everything. But ultimately, we have to see it from the eyes of a child. An eternal child. And I think that's what is the series inviting you to be part of that movement that sees life from the perspectives of wonder that only kids can have. And I think we lose as we get older. We just become less and less connected to that aspect, that the childhood spirit inside of us. I think we all can carry that. And I think that the show really nails that very, very well. But what is your opinion, my friends? What do you think about this season? Have you had the chance to watch it? Do you watch it? Do you like it? Do you agree with my opinion? Do you disagree with it? What is the thing that perhaps I did not mention here that is bothering you about it? What is the thing that you love so much about it? Please let me know in the comments below. So once again, my friends, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, to comment, and to subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification button to remind you of the next video. Follow me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. The links are in the description. And please consider supporting the channel financially through Patreon. My friends, God bless. Take care. I will talk to you again. Bye-bye.